Hello everyone, and welcome to the first anniversary of Advocate for Sanity. You know, if you told me a year ago I'd be saying that, I might not have believed you. Now, I do have at least one surprise in store, as well as the winner of the costume poll from Twitter and Furry Amino. But if you saw last month's episode, one thing that's not a surprise is who I'm going to be dealing with today. So let's get to it, shall we?
Coronavirus has the potential to be seen as many different things.
Yeah, even little boy Woo made a video on this subject. However, YouTube didn't pull it down for spreading misinformation, which proves that even spirit science knows how to actually look up legitimate facts. Shame he doesn't use that capacity more often.
Something to fear, a quarantine enforcer, and even a deadly killer. And this is the reality we're collectively experiencing.
Excuse me for just a second, folks. Oh, artist guy, beloved creator. Hey, human!
Susie, I know I made being a self-aware cartoon character part of your shtick, but why are you going full-scale Deadpool on me?
How come this nonsense is fully animated and all I get is a set of poses?
Oh, that would be because they have more time than I do, and probably more money.
Fair point.
Can we get back to the video now?
I suppose so.
Thank you.
Okay, the reality we're collectively experiencing. You realize you can condense that down to one word: reality.
And as the designers and creators of our collective reality, we must accept that we cannot always control the circumstances that befall us, but we can control how we respond to them.
You know, for once I have to actually agree with him. And personally, I choose to respond by taking the advice of professionals. I mean medical professionals. Who don't blame gynecological problems on demon sperm.
If we were to take a look at COVID-19 from a higher perspective, we might just see a very interesting picture come to form.
Says the guy who sounds like he's high enough to see interesting pictures in a puddle of water.
The coronavirus pandemic is potentially a wake-up call, a huge lesson for us, and even an opportunity for massive change.
Oh, it's caused changes all right. Unfortunately, none of them have been good. Unrelated aside, am I the only one who really wants a global alarm clock now?
While the long-term results of the coronavirus pandemic are still yet to be seen, there's no question that it's transforming life on Earth as we know it by bringing to the surface so many conversations that we need to have.
Why am I suddenly afraid of where he's going with this?
Conversations such as wet markets, treatment of life, quarantines, health, hygiene, and collective responsibility.
I stand corrected. That actually makes sense.
But the thing is, absolutely none of these conversations are the beginning nor the end of the dialogue.
I should have figured it was too good to last. All right, dopey smurf, spit it out.
They are all the results and responses to the experience of this pandemic. None of these actually address the higher understanding of the whole thing.
And cue the woo. Now, we all know that if by higher understanding, he meant sufficient knowledge to develop vaccines and better therapeutics so that we could save more people's lives, I'd be all for it. We also know that that's not what he meant. Wouldn't be on my channel if he did. So let's skip past his little intro and see how much nonsense he decides to add to the facts.
We can gain a great deal of insight if we dig into the name itself.
Says the guy with science in his channel name and only enough science in his content to keep the video from being pulled for spreading misinformation.
Coronavirus. Corona directly translates to crown from the Latin. By the nature of the name itself, what we are dealing with here is a crown virus, which it was named for after its characteristic crown-like protein spikes.
And for absolutely no other reason, although I'm sure you'll say there's more to it.
The significance of the name crown here relates distinctly with two important areas of focus: the spiritual crown and the physical crown.
Called it! Side note, being a respiratory virus, it seems to me that it would be more connected to your chest than your physical crown, aka head.
Both of which relate with the topmost and zenith aspects of a system. We also see the word corona relating with a certain part of the sun, and we'll look at this soon.
Yes, you big blue bonehead. Like the virus, the outer edge of the sun is also referred to as the corona because it looks like a crown, and for no other reason.
In these systems, the word crown generally relates to the organizing leadership of the higher order. In the physical systems, crown was the name for the headdress that was a powerful symbol of authority, and the name symbolically was then essentially given to those in power, like the king or the queen.
You do realize that physical systems can refer to any system with physical components, from the organelles of a single-celled organism to a global ecosystem, and not necessarily the human societies that you're referring to. Also, just out of morbid curiosity, what in the name of your bulbous blue butt cheeks does any of this have to do with what you were originally talking about?
And while it's not really used by democratic systems today, the word crown essentially still relates with the topmost of a social system.
Well done! You actually figured out that the same word can have different meanings in different contexts. Guess those 5 years you spent in the 3rd grade weren't a complete waste after all.
Now, in spiritual systems, we see the word crown being used to describe the Godhead. In both the chakras and the Tree of Life, the topmost sphere is called the crown. These systems describe that this important point on the human body, the top of the head.
I could be a brat and point out that that was the side of your head, not the top. But the fact that you didn't point to your left big toe demonstrates a higher level of intelligence than I usually give you credit for.
Is the place through which we connect with a higher understanding, which allows us to develop greater wisdom and the inner knowing that all things are connected, no matter how separate and isolated things may appear.
Conversely, the gray matter just a smidge lower can allow us to perceive the illusion of interconnectivity, whether any actually exists or not, if we're so inclined. Like, for example, the individual in this video who's blue all over and not just in some of the more interesting places.
This is especially interesting given that isolation becomes one of our most valuable tools in combating the spread of the virus. The ancient wisdom describes that when the crown is blocked, or we are unable to connect with the higher expression of our interconnected nature, we create a reality of duality consciousness and live our lives as if everything is separate. And this is one hidden lesson that we find with COVID-19.
So you're sneaking in some sort of insinuation that we eat cows and chickens because of some sort of perceived duality, rather than because, they taste good if they're prepared right.
Nuts, anyone?
What we believe to be true today is that the virus itself probably began within wet markets in Wuhan. Now, there are some theories suggesting alternatives to this, but for now, as this is the leading theory, let's continue with this idea.
Translation. There are a metric crap ton of conspiracy theories out there, some of which even make the talking blueberry muffin here look sensible, but he's going to stick to what the reliable evidence has concluded so that YouTube doesn't yank this video out from under him.
These are filthy environments for selling both live and dead animals, and these environments are places that bacteria and viruses can easily mutate and spread. It should come as no surprise when you keep animals jammed into tight cages, experiencing terrible suffering while other animal carcasses lay strewn about everywhere. It's only logical that this becomes a breeding ground for bacteria and diseases to jump about from host to host and eventually mutate its way into the very people who frequent these environments.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that the reason that wet markets become a breeding ground for bacteria and viruses is because of the sanitary conditions in them that are on average only slightly better than a rest area bathroom, not because of any suffering the animals may or may not be experiencing.
Take a moment to consider just how much fear and anxiety is being created by those animals in the wet markets. It's no surprise that something negative has come out of it.
Again, it's the unsanitary conditions, not the animals' feelings. Let's review real quick. Does Blue Boy actually get the little bit of science he includes correct? Does he appear to have an overwhelming urge to embellish all facts that he comes across with woo gibberish? Even really important things like a global pandemic? Exactly. I may come back to this video and cover the rest of it next month, but for now, I just can't handle it anymore. Couple things before we wrap up. First off, I want to welcome Prophet of Zod as the newest addition to my list of fellow advocates for sanity. Go check his channel out, he's awesome. Now it's time to announce the winner of the Halloween costume pick poll. If I were going solely by Twitter, then the winner would have been this time that I cosplayed the character of Sango from the anime Inuyasha. However, thanks to the much larger response I got from Furry Amino, the actual winner is this cute little witch outfit that I did around about the time I first started this channel. That wraps up this episode. Believe it or not, I'm actually looking forward to another year of amusing you guys with my self-inflicted mental torture. Until next time, stay safe, love you bunches, and as always, stay sane, everybody. Smoochies! If you like what I do, but want to see somebody do it way better, be sure to check out Sir Sick, the Social Inequality Crusader. Links in the description below. And tell him Susie sent you.